What's up guys, it's Colin. Today we're back in the retail floor and today I'm going to be telling you guys all about 5 different types of floating plants that we carry. Alright, plant number 1, one of our most common plants. This is called water lettuce. If I can open it up here. So this guy, this has what I would say is a medium-sized foliage. And we can show some B-roll footage of some larger stuff. This stuff usually the pieces get about 2 or 3 inches in size. This plant is really good for, first off, it's a really good sink for like nutrients, like your nitrates and your phosphates and stuff in your aquarium. This stuff will help to suck up a lot of those excess nutrients. As well though, it's very beautiful to look at. These get really long, about 2 or 3 inch root structures on them as well. So it kind of looks like you're in a jungle or in a swamp in your tank. And the other thing would be, all of our aquatic plants are really good about shading out the bottom of an aquarium. So if you have plants, like certain plants like low to mid light, it can be really nice to add an addition of floating plants on top, simply to break out some shade and provide extra coverage. Floating plants can also be a good option for things like certain contained like goldfish ponds, or for like axolotl tanks where they like a little bit lower light levels. That can also be a great option. Our next plant is what we call the Salvinia minima. It's also called water spangles. This plant is really neat as well. Water spangles tends to grow in more of a clump type formation than a big mat. And if you actually look really close at these guys, they actually have a very rough texture. It's almost like the spikes on a cat's tongue. It's not sharp enough to like hurt fish or anything like that, but they have a really super spiky texture. So these guys are super cool as well. If you want a little bit of a different look, these guys tend to grow a little more of like a mossy clump type structure. Our next floating plant is kind of like the friend you invited to the party but won't leave. This is duckweed. So duckweed is a very fast growing, small leaf structure plant. This guy can actually double its mass in about 2 to 4 days. So they can cover a tank quite quickly. So what I usually recommend with this guy is, if you do have it in your home aquarium, find a way to contain it, or if you're gonna have duckweed or add it to your tank, go into it with purpose and dedication as to where you're going to place it, because otherwise it'll very soon choke out your tank. It's kind of notorious for, if you have like skimmers or anything like that that skim the water surface, got to be careful to protect those, because otherwise they're going to get completely clogged with duckweed. In general, most of the plants that I've shown you today so far as well, I do want to say, they do prefer lower flow. And by that, what I mean is water circulation in the bottom is fine, but they don't like a ton of turbulence on the top of the water. So if you have a hang-on back filter or something like that, where the water level on the top is getting frequently disturbed, I would definitely recommend finding a way with some airline tubing, or they sell these really cool things that like they're little floating things you can put your plants in that can help contain the plants so they're not facing that agitation. Floating plants generally don't like to be shaken up a lot. So lower water flow on the top or lower agitation is definitely best for floating plants. And then our last one, this is probably one of my favorites. This is one of the more tropical varieties, but this is our Amazon Frogbit. This grows quite large too. You can have clusters that'll get 3 or 4 inches in width. These are neat because they kind of have a central mass, and then all the leaves, shoot off of that, kind of like lily pads. So these are really cool for tropical tanks and warmer water tanks as well. They do get to decent size. Frogbit does tend to be a little bit of a slower grower, but with any of our floating plants, as long as your nutrient levels are right and your light levels are right, there's really a huge potential for growth. Another plant that's going to be honorable mention under the category of floating plants is our Java moss. So Java moss is this very beautiful string-like long-form moss. This does tend to be a slow to a moderate grower as well, and this stuff will grow onto structures like driftwood, rocks, and things like that in your tank. You can actually attach it with things like flourish glue or nylon fishing line if you want to get it started. But this can also be found, you can also have this free floating on your tank, and a lot of people have big masses of this. It's really nice if you have fry in the tank or baby fish that you're breeding. This stuff's really good about allowing the fry a place to hide and kind of having little micronutrients they can graze off of the plant as well. If you have any questions about floating plants, be sure to stop in store and talk to an associate. We'll be happy to help you out. Have a great day.